Hey everyone, for this project I did I2 social criticism. So I'm going to read the poem and you can read along if you want to. I2 by Langston Hughes. I too sing America. I am the darker skinned brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes. But I laugh and eat well and grow stronger. Tomorrow I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody will dare say to me, eat in the kitchen. Then besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am American. So Langston Hughes is the original author of the poem that we just read. He was an African American author during the modern age, which started in the early 19th century and lasted up until the mid 20th century. Being an African American who grew up during the times of segregation in America, Hughes often wrote about the civil rights movement as well as the struggles of Black Americans. I too is one of his poems in which he discusses about segregation through a clear image. Now, in this poem, the author uses a few literary devices, such as metaphor and allusion, to better convey his message. In the poem, he describes segregation but through a clear image. What he does is that he sort of paints an image of himself being shunned away by his fellow men. Whilst they are allowed to eat with the guest, he is not. Instead, he's shoved to the kitchen because of his skin color. In Hughes' poem, I Too, there are a few critical lenses that can be analyzed. The poem itself mainly highlights themes such as race, identity, and social struggles. What is portrayed or seen in this poem is the act in which African Americans are moving from a relegated position to claiming their rightful place at the table. Now, the table that Hughes refers to isn't actually an actual table, but it's an image of the position that African Americans were placed in the society around that time. At the same time, it also symbolizes their undying quest for equality. For example, when he states, "Tomorrow I'll be able to to be at the table when company comes. Nobody will dare tell me eat in the kitchen." Now, the Marxist criticism focuses on social struggles. In the poem, I Too, the author targets racism as well as the persecutions that African Americans faced in mid 20th century America. We see that in the poem, the metaphor of being relegated to the kitchen when the guests arrive is being used to better create an image of segregation and in inequality, excuse me. Hughes presents the message of diversity awareness by using strong points or words, which better helps the reader understand the gravity of the present situation that is being presented in the poem. Some important key passages, starting with passage 1. I am the darker skinned brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes. Now, this line paints an image of segregation. The meaning behind this passage is discrimination racially. One group of people refuse their fellow men to dine with them simply because he looks different. In a historical sense, however, this passage represents the dehumanization of Black Americans in the early 20th century America. It also highlights the fact of how they were shunned in the society simply because of their race. Passage number 2. But I eat well and grow stronger. This passage gives out some words of encouragement to the ones who are oppressed. The meaning behind this passage is perseverance. Although one is mistreated, they should keep a positive mind ahead and able to make a change to the current situation. In a historical sense, however, this passage highlights how Black Americans fought for their freedom with perseverance and courage, which led to the advent of the Civil Rights Act being passed. Key passage number 3. Tomorrow I'll eat at the table. This passage highlights the meaning of a better tomorrow. In a historical sense, it sheds light to the victory that African Americans gained against segregation when the Civil Rights Act was passed on July 1964. And here are some discussion questions that you can answer on your own time that helps you reflect on the poem. Here is my works cited. Now for the conclusion of the presentation, if the leaders of a certain society refuse to emphasize the ethical and suitable practices that create a safe space for the public population, it will lead to a damaging society, like what was seen in mid 20th century America. Even so, it is worse if the general public also refuses to take a stand against certain unethical laws or practices that are being presented by their leaders as a norm. So, if change does not start with the leaders of the society, then it can still start with the people of the society. This is what was seen during the civil rights movement. The civilians that were oppressed had to stand up and fight for their civil rights, which in turn opened doors for a better society with the future generation.